r/Nosleep. Posted by you/signed, sealed, delivered. I'm a psychologist, and I just had a very strange encounter with a walk-in client. I'm a psychologist, and I just had a strange walk-in client last night. I was working late, as usual. Most of my clients have to work during office hours, so I offer evening to nighttime appointments to fit their schedules. I had a long day yesterday, seeing different clients from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. at night. I don't usually schedule in these many clients in a day. In fact, I usually try to keep my caseload down to 3 to 4 clients a day. However, due to a congregation of many different factors, such as emergency session requests, a few walk-in clients who really needed immediate support, I had a packed day. At 9:30 p.m., I was still writing up my clinical notes for the day. Suddenly, my clinic door swung open, the electronic doorbell startling me from my concentration. I opened my office door and automatically called out, "Hi there, so sorry but we're closed for." I couldn't help but trail off, when I caught sight of the man's stare. I felt like his eyes were burning right through me. It was almost as if he had emitted this energy from his eyes that made direct contact with my nervous system, and I felt an electric tingle run through my body. "I need to speak with you," he said matter-of-factly, in a quiet but commanding tone. We're closed. Our operating hours are until 9 p.m. only. You can make an appointment by calling our clinic tomorrow when dash. He cut me off with another deep stare. It was really odd. I had this sensation of not wanting to disappoint him, and every word I said had to be forced from my mouth. The words rejecting his request felt forced and invalid, though logically, I knew they were actual facts. He simply walked by me and into my office, leaving me open-mouthed at the doorway. As he made himself comfortable, my body somehow turned and closed the door behind me. I walked towards my seat and settled in, as if programmed to do so. Before I knew it, I was repeating the familiar words, "Thank you for coming here today. I'm Chloe, this is a fake name, I don't want to be identified, and I'm sure you'd understand by the end of this post. May I know how you'd like to be addressed?" He paused for a long moment, and I found myself captivated by his presence, waiting for his words with bated breath. "You can call me." He paused again, clearly deciding upon a made-up name. "Marco," he finally said. "Nice to meet you, Marco. What brings you here today?" I will get straight to the point. I have done things in certain ways for as long as I can remember. Yet recently, I have had a conversation with someone, and it has given me pause. It had made me question if the way I've been doing things, my habits, my traditions, they should be challenged. Could you share more with me about this conversation, what it was about? I'd also like to know more about what these habits, traditions are, but I guess we'd get to that as well. One of the participants in my usual activities, traditions, he had raised an issue that I hadn't considered, not from his point of view. The man looked deep into my eyes, brows furrowed, as if pondering how much to share, and carefully picking the words to use. "I'll just be plain," he finally said. He had mentioned that while human life may be short and unmemorable, impotent to the world, each life carries meaning, precisely due to the transient nature of human life. That idea, while I quickly dismissed it in our conversation, has been lingering in my mind, and it seems I cannot be rid of it. I wanted to know your thoughts, as a human, as to what you think about this claim, that human life has meaning, is worthy, even though fleeting. I pursed my lips, unsettled and curious about his comments about human life and as a human, but something told me not to bring it up. I thought for a bit about his question, and finally spoke, carefully. "Well, as a human, I have often thought about the point of life, why there's suffering, why we have no access to any inherent meaning in our lives. I've thought about what could possibly be fulfilling about a life that flashes by, leaving no dents in the universe. I'm wondering, have you read Camus' theories on absurdism? I didn't have the opportunity to meet the man in person, but I had heard bits and pieces about that, back when, anyway, I didn't really take notice or pay attention, it seemed of so little import to me." I shrugged aside my confusion, and continued. "Well, in gist, and pardon any inaccuracies, I'm not a philosopher, and it's just what I understand of it." But he argued that there were 3 ways to resolve the dilemma of wanting to find meaning in a life that is inherently meaningless. First, it's to commit suicide, what he calls the coward's way out. There's no meaning to life, so you end it. The next, much more preferable, in my opinion, is to create your own meaning. There's no inherent meaning, no reason you are set here on earth, so you create your own. Work on giving life any meaning you wish. And the last way out, is to turn to religion. He calls this philosophical suicide, as he thinks it's the easy way out of the dilemma, to put your faith and trust in something you can't prove. I looked at him, waiting for a response. So it sounds like you're tending towards making your own meaning in this meaningless life of yours. I winced inwardly. Yes, I am. I am a spiritual person though, and I do believe that there is a greater power, a higher purpose to everyone's lives. I can't prove it, but I can't disprove it either. So why not believe in whatever helps me feel better, in this life where I'm striving to create meaning? He licked his lower lip, which seemed cracked and painful. I offered him one of the water bottles I keep handy in my office. He shook his head, and continued. This meaning you make of your life. It will lead to nothing more. You will die, and the meaning you make will perish. I understand that, but since I'm alive now, not dead, and I have to feel things, to be someone, to live, why not fill these moments where I am alive with purpose, with reasons to be happy, to be grateful to be alive? But it ends. He said simply. If it doesn't, I suspect I'll be really bored. I'd probably not cherish these moments as much. After all, I'd have eternity to create endless moments, would I not? He seemed offended. That's wrong. With eternal life, comes the knowledge that every single thing you do, every moment you experience, will haunt you, have a lasting impact on you, for the rest of my life. For eternity. There's no expiry date to mistakes made, or happiness enjoyed. You can forever look back on them. Well, I'm going to be plain as well. You're sounding like you don't believe yourself to be part of humanity. You're speaking as if you come from the point of someone who has forever to live. Am I getting this right? He looked surprised, then serious. I see there's no point speaking in metaphors and figures of speech. Yes, let's take it that I am that. An eternal being. It's good that we're clear now, it can save us precious time. I spoke to one of you, something I rarely do. After all, do you speak to your cows before they end up on your plate? I felt a chill run down my spine, but I did not move. I felt spellbound, compelled to listen to everything he had to say, to speak to him, to help him figure things out. I must say, he moved me, which is something that hasn't occurred in over a century. Alright, in decades. I do remember having once been moved by a sweet young. But I digress. He shifted in his seat, and leaned forward. I don't spend much time with humans. Not socially, at least. I've always had a way of getting by without being a part of your society. But this human, had caught me by surprise. He wasn't supposed to be out of he wasn't supposed to get to see me, get to talk to me. He somehow found his way into my chambers, and out of curiosity, I let him stay and speak his piece. He raved at me, somehow finding my traditions cruel, terrible. He railed for a time, and I listened, initially with amusement. Then he asked me if I would ever do what I do to humans to someone like myself. I scoffed at first, of course. Humans are not like I am, they never will be. I tried to explain to him how things worked, how it's not cruelty, what I do. Rather, it's just fulfilling my needs. That human sentiment cannot be compared to the intellect, the state we are in. Human lives are fleeting, they may as well not exist. Humans die all the time, they die anyway, no matter what. So what is so cruel about having them fulfill our needs, to keep us, the higher beings, sustained? I listened, not able to move a muscle. I kept thinking about what he said after I got him back to where he should be. I wanted to continue the conversation with him, but he's no longer able to continue the conversation. So I'm asking you, what are your thoughts about this? I bit my lip. I wanted to tread carefully, but something compelled me to speak my mind. You think it's okay to do cruel things to people, just because they die one day? Do they not feel, at the moment, the things you do to them? Do they not suffer? Do they not experience pain? He frowned. Yes, they do, I'm sure they do. Their screams, the way they fuss. But it all ends, anyway. What does it matter what I do to them while they exist? It matters, because with this limited handful of time we have, we want to feel joy. We want to experience what life has to offer. We want to make the most of our time, we want to leave a legacy, never mind if we are able to see it happen. We're alive, but we deserve to be left alone, to do what we want to do. We were silent for a while. Then I spoke up again, despite my fear. You killed him, didn't you? I brought him to his end. Perhaps earlier than otherwise. You claim it's for your needs. But do you need to kill people? He shifted in his seat. I haven't considered alternatives. It's simply the most efficient way. If it's to fulfill your needs, why does it sound like you torture them? He raised his eyebrows. I certainly do not. I'm not a cruel man. I just do what I need to get what I need. Then why the fuss? Why their screams and suffering? Why not kill them quickly, if that's what you say is needed? Because I need them to be fresh. Simple as that. I need different things from them, and I get it from them. I need them to be alive for much of the things I need. I stared at him, unwilling to speak, fighting back against the force I felt in my mind. Well, it's like with your cows, again. You keep them alive for milk, and the process of milking may hurt them sometimes, but it's not your intention, yes? Then you eat them, when it's time. I continued to stare sullenly at him. He looked at me, and sighed. You know, it's not like I spend all day staring at you humans as you suffer and scream. I don't. I'm usually occupied with my own life, and humans only come across my mind when I need to. He looked at me here, shrugged, and said, feed. I'm guessing there's no further need to mince words. What do you want from me? I just want to know, is it really that important to you? Do you really feel that your life has meaning, that you deserve to be treated like one of us? I believe so. And I know so. And we deserve to not be tortured, killed, for your kind, whatever you are. You live eternal, but that gives you no superiority, no power over us. You are not better than us. One might argue, we may be better than you. We know the value of life, the preciousness of moments, we cherish things much more than you do. His face darkened, and I felt sick inside. You don't know me. He stopped speaking, and I sat rooted to my spot, dread welling up inside, weighing me deeper into the surface. Perhaps I'll give your life some meaning. Some purpose. The purpose of fulfilling my needs. I kept quiet and still, and felt my face draining of blood. Forgive me. I did not mean to threaten you. One can't do that with one's therapist, can he? It's not good form. I was upset. He stood up, and all I could do was stare. Listen. You've given me a lot to think about today. I'll take some time to digest what you've said. I'll see you again, say, next week, same day, same time? I'm doing a home visit for a client, and I won't be here next week, this time. You won't be. You'll be free, don't worry about it. He walked out, just like that. As the door closed behind him, I regained control over my body, and I stood up, shakily. I waited for the swoosh and click of the clinic door opening and closing, but didn't hear a sound. I waited a few minutes, then cautiously opened the door and peeped out. The waiting room was empty. I shut the door, and sank down onto the floor. This morning, I retrieved the video recordings from the surveillance camera I keep trained on my waiting room, and outside the clinic. I have an obligation to report any clients who reveal that they intend harm to others, or themselves. That's the exception to the confidentiality clause. In fact, I should have reported the client yesterday, the minute I found out that someone had come to harm, and others will too, as well. But my mind was frazzled, displaced. I fast-forwarded to 9:30 p.m., and my heart skipped a bit when I saw him walk in. He was but a blur, an amorphous blob I couldn't make out. I had to strain my eyes to even notice him coming in. I realized he had seemed to go straight through the clinic door. I wondered why he bothered to ring the bell. The video feed showed me talking to that blur in the waiting room, and walking back to my office. It then showed, after a long, uninterrupted feed of nothing happening in the waiting room, my office door opening, and the blur shifting out, and out the clinic altogether. I can't go to the police with this, they're going to think I'm crazy. I haven't shown the video recording to anyone else, other than my receptionist, who had gone home at 9 p.m. on the dot that day. She hadn't been able to make out the blur, and after my insistence, she had seemed nervous, before agreeing that she did make out something after all. She had avoided me for the rest of the day. Perhaps I'm really going crazy. Maybe it was all in my head. It had been a long day after all. But I did receive a phone call in the afternoon, from my client. The one I'm supposed to pay a home visit to next week. She had told me that she no longer required the home visit, and she'd schedule in another time slot. It might be my paranoia, but I thought she sounded a little scared, a little different from her usual self. I don't know what to do now. Should I go to the police anyway? Risk my career? Risk being called a crazy? Risk losing my practicing license? Should I hire I don't know, a private investigator? A shaman? I'm scared. Perhaps I'll call in sick next week. Stay home. Hire bodyguards. Leave the city? If anyone has any idea what could help, please reach out, let me know.